We are back in the black hole of real estate, and we're a few days into the new real estate rules for the NAR settlement, and it's gone pretty quietly. This is Ron Wojciechowski, your host for today's episode of the black hole of real estate. What I mean by going quietly is it's been kind of quiet for showings across the board, and I have to believe that the number one reason this weekend was the uncertainty of how to explain the new documents that have to be signed by buyers in order to tour properties. And the real estate industry has had these documents in their hand for a short time, and I believe they're still working on the skill set to actually be able to explain them in such a way that it makes sense to the buyers. And it's also giving buyers some options that maybe they weren't taking a look at as closely in the past. Now stay with me. The agreement itself is going to talk about working with an agent, whether it's exclusive or non-exclusive. It's going to talk about the fee, whether it's a percent or a dollar amount, and how long the agreement will last for. And I believe as buyers are becoming far more aware that this is a fee that they will pay for unless it becomes part of the offer and negotiation for the home that they purchase, where it is taken into account that the seller is going to provide the payment. Now it's being funded through the contract, so if you pick out a purchase price and the seller is willing to pay for both brokerages, that's a part of the purchase price. So it's netting out of the proceeds. So if we want to talk about who's paying for it, I mean, ultimately the buyer is paying for everything because they're actually making the offer that allows enough money for the seller to pay out everything else through the proceeds. So the buyer, in essence, is paying for it through the sales price, which has happened in the vast majority, maybe not all, but 99% of the deals that have happened, unless there was one or two unrepresented parties, then this is how it's been done for years and years and years. But I'm not sure that that's what's really causing some people to pause to sign the agreements. And I think I'll break it down in a couple of places. Number one, when you're actually signing this agreement, would it make sense that for the first time in a long time, like, wow, if I'm really paying for this and I'm aware of this, do I have the right agent? Is it the one that's highly rated or knows the area or that I happen to have a good synergy with and a good working relationship that I want to continue with? I think for most people that might be it. But if you're a buyer who has been calling signs or agent hopping, now you're faced with a choice. And my mind travels to a place if you're having to choose one agent in exclusive agreement, you might be spending a little more time checking reviews, checking sales statistics, checking a number of things, maybe just vetting them out a little bit, checking social media, make sure that, they live their life aligned with your core values. And it could be as simple as that. I mean, it's how we choose other things in life, like vehicles and which restaurant to buy the $10 sandwich at or $15 sandwich these days, right? We'll spend 30 or 40 minutes trying to pick out a place to have a sandwich. I gotta believe that people are also going to spend a little more time putting a little more thought into who they're going to select as the right person to guide them through it. Or they might select to go about it on their own, which is, again, these have all been options. But now as we have a more thoughtful presentation and conversation, at some point an agent's skill and competence does begin to matter just a little bit differently. And in the environment of just a few years ago, where it was a race to get to a property and there was 25 offers, any old agent will do, is what some people may have thought. I would argue that an agent that was skillfully right to offer in those multiple offer situations would have been the biggest advantage. And if there was this type of paperwork, documentation and disclosure, maybe back then an above average agent who can show that they were highly successful and skilled in these multiple offer situations, they may have commanded a higher fee than they made at that time, which would have been, market rate. Not every attorney costs the same amount, not every doctor costs the same amount. Why would it be that it'd be every agent with differentiating skills costs the same? It doesn't happen in any other industry. And I think now that a buyer who's looking to purchase a home sometime this 3 to 6 months is going to have a choice that they've always had to make, but maybe, just maybe, is realizing that it might have been a bigger decision than they may have thought it might be. And so now, I think showings will be quiet for a little bit until people get used to it, because it's different. I've absolutely heard conversations of people says, I'm going to represent myself. I'm not using any agent. Okay, it was your choice to be able to do that every day up till today, and including today and tomorrow. You can absolutely do that. You will probably find that someone representing themselves is going to come to grips with how they are able to get information, how they're able to access properties and get indoors, get the forms and the contracts, all the same challenges. I think there'll be a heightened awareness of the number of things that a self-represented buyer is going to have to do throughout the process. And, this news just in, a lot of people have successfully done that over the years. And I'm not here to suggest it's impossible or that you should have an agent or not have an agent. But because we are in a situation right now where actually being able to take a step back and say this has to be documented. Are you representing yourself or not? Are you with a non-exclusive agreement with an agent? Is it a one-day or a weekend pass that's signed by everybody? Or is it an exclusive one that, hey, we're getting married. We're going to do this right to the bitter end over here until we get the right property at the right price and the right terms. And it sounds like what I'm saying right now is, well, duh. They've always had these options. And I say exactly. But because it's new and different, it's going to be a little uncomfortable for many. And when there's discomfort, I believe that leads to a state of inactivity. It's really hard to do this homework. I think I'll wait till the last minute. I'll wait, till the day the term paper is due. We're deadline driven. If the deadline is a month away, we may not do it until the day before. When we go on vacations, I think the packing occurs usually the day before, and a lot of stuff gets done at work and at home the day before. And by the way, when you get a bunch of phone calls and you go on vacation and notice a lot of things, is you did so much activity the few days before, some people responded back and interrupted your vacation. So let that sink in. But right now, any buyer can say, it's the economy, it's the interest rates, it's a lack of inventory. My answer would be, the rates are a little lower than they were. And there's absolutely more properties available right now than there was 6 months ago and a year ago. So the rates are a little more favorable. There is more to choose from. It's the uncertainty that's going to cause some people to pause. It's also the research that people are doing now. I think it's really good for the industry, to be quite honest with you. A competent agent with a broad and strong skill set that's able to thoroughly explain the documentation, to earn those 5-star reviews and to earn those accolades. It's going to cause more confidence of the consumers that are choosing to work with real estate professionals. And that confidence comes from the agent being competent. I think at the end of the day, the consumer is going to get a better agent and a better customer experience at most levels throughout the sales process. So if the discomfort and new rules and 2 extra pieces of paper are bothersome to some consumers or some agents, okay. But the ones that adapt quickly and embrace the change and surrender to the notion that they can possibly change it back to the way it was, I think the ones that just move forward with it are going to get better faster, have more success. And if you're an agent in the business, this is a chance to take a little territory and some market share right now by just adopting into it. And I realize some people are going to fight this and fight this and fight this, but if you had a VHS tape and then you had a DVD and now you're just streaming, you could keep fighting the change. But I look around right now and there's not too many of those tapes floating around anymore, and there's a lot of streaming going on. And as technology and markets evolve, those that can adapt are likely the ones that have an increased opportunity somewhere down the road. And the consumers that work with them are likely to have a better experience and quite possibly save a little money along the way and not lose the house that they might want to have. So for me, it's actually kind of an exciting time that of all the fanfare, it got a little quiet. And that's okay. So if you're in that situation, whether it's not wanting to embrace the change or uncomfortable because it's just something you're not quite familiar with yet or understand it to your own level of satisfaction, that's what we're here for. You've got questions, we got answers. Drop us a line, send over your questions. Our podcasts right now are going to be based on contributing to the industry and for all the consumers to get the result that they are looking for in their real estate experience and their purchases and their sales. This is Ron Wojciechowski for the Black Hole of Real Estate.